At the graduation this afternoon, you heard from the president and the vice president of the Watchtower Bible School of Gilead, as well as hearing the 4 instructors. They gave you the faculty side of the picture of the Watchtower Bible School of Gilead. This evening, we thought you would like to hear from the graduates themselves. They will give you the students' side of the picture, or what a graphic one it promises to be, too. I had the privilege of being with them at the school a few weeks ago, and they were very enthusiastic about their program. And I'm sure that they will be very happy to tell you some things about the school and their lives. This 31st class of Gilead, of 103 students being from 64 different lands, really made it the most colorful class ever to be residents of the school. With such a wide variety of social and national backgrounds, the resultant fabric has been that of an intrinsically rich, beautifully designed New World tapestry. Tonight, we would like to show you some of that tapestry of New World living. The program this evening will be in the form of a colorful album of living scenes of Gilead school days. Glimpses will be presented of the students' life at work, at play, and at study. Furthermore, you will get to learn something of their background, their experiences. These will be living exposures taken during the closing days of the past school term. So let us see what the 31st class of students really is like in true life. The students had a very fine chorus, we thought, but of course we don't have all of the students here. Half of them are at the polo grounds this evening putting on their part of the program, but they'll be here later. So in order to give you a better appreciation of how this student body sang together from 64 different lands, we made a tape recording while I was at school the last time. So we're going to ask the sound department to put on the chorus of the 31st class. You'll hear it by tape recording.
Christ
So you can see how well a group of people from different races, kindreds, tongues can sing a new song together. Now we'll go on with our pictures. We turn to our first picture in Gilead's living album. Here we have a living portrait of 7 students coming from the Netherlands, Britain, Ceylon, the Philippines, Guatemala, Finland, and the Dutch West Indies. Now don't be bashful in coming up there and letting these folks see you. Let us imagine that they're located in the South Campus of Gilead. Of course, we have them over here in this garden section tonight. The brother from Ceylon, a former Church of England lay minister in the Tamil language, seems to have 2 others engaged in a lively discussion about something. They are having a short break in their study for the final exams. Let us move over to this setting and hear what is being said.
Hi, Fred Snow. How did you do in the examination of Bible research this morning?
Oh, not so bad, I hope.
One more examination, Fred, and the studies in Gilead are passed.
Yes, doesn't the time fly? Cor, do you remember where I saw you for the first time?
That was in 1955, during the Triumphant Kingdom Assembly in London. At that convention, we both filled out our preliminary application for Gilead.
What a wonderful association we had. Though my partner and I were pioneers, we were able to attend 4 of the international assemblies in Europe. We sold everything we had, and in that way we're able to make it.
Were you also a pioneer, Brother Tunison?
Yes. The last month of the foregoing year, I had just started a special pioneer service in the Netherlands. That first month of my special pioneer service, I will not easily forget. I went to a town of about 30,000 inhabitants, and there were no active witnesses of Jehovah, only some interested people. When I arrived there with all my luggage, I had no place to stay. I could stay one night with an interested person. That night and the next day, I did from house to house work to find a room. After visiting many addresses, I succeeded in at last renting a room in the house of an old widow. Immediately, I wrote the society that they had found a room and how happy I was with that. They wrote me back that it reminded them of the scripture text in 1 Kings 17, verse 8 and 9, where it says, "The word of Jehovah now came to him, saying, Rise up, go to Zarephath, which belongs to Sidon, and you must dwell there. Look, I shall certainly command there a woman, a widow, to supply you food."
That was good, was it not?
Say, Cor, when you were in London and put our names down for Gilead, did you ever think then of the possibility that we would attend Gilead at the same time?
No, I had not the slightest idea about it. But as you see, here we are. I'm very grateful for this wonderful privilege of attending Gilead. From the time that I came into truth, Gilead has been my goal, and after that, serving wherever Jehovah wants me placed. What a rich blessing Gilead has been in the past years, and what a rich blessing it has been to us. We learned how to chew the spiritual food that Jehovah provides for his people, how to get out of it what is in it. Still, the school program did not tie us down, for we had very fine periods of relaxation.
Oh yes. What did you do for relaxation, Fred?
Well, Henry, You know that every afternoon while we're here at Gilead, we do manual work. Well, that proved to be a wonderful relaxation for my mind. My work was the care of young plants and weeding work. The more I did that work, the more I appreciated the illustration of Jesus at Matthew chapter 13, verse 24. You remember that illustration of the good seed and how an enemy came and planted weeds among the wheat.
Yes, of course. I remember.
After that, he said, let them grow together. So it is with weeding. You don't have to weed out as soon as you have planted, but you let them grow together until you can distinguish between the one and the other. Then with patience and great care, you look after the young shoot, and at the same time, root out the offending weeds. Oh, this has taught me great patience. And when I apply this in my new preaching assignment in the Leeward Islands, I am sure that it will better equip me for the work of weeding out the false doctrines that Satan has planted in the minds of sincere men and help them to cultivate the desire to worship Jehovah. I like the work so very much. I think that Gilead has a wonderfully balanced program.
Yes, that is very true. Among the many things I learned was the point of how to schedule my time and use the study hours as efficiently as possible. Gilead has further greatly increased my appreciation and understanding of the organization Jehovah has on earth. My desire now is to put into practice all the things I learned, and that is what I want to do in my new assignment.
Where is your new assignment, God?
I'm going to the Netherlands Antilles. There are some little islands in the Caribbean Sea. It is in the vicinity of Fred's assignment, the Leeward Islands.
Brothers, there goes the bell. Our last examination.
Considerable group study work is done at Gilead in preparation for examinations and also in doing the nightly homework for the certain courses. So it is not unusual to see students in small groups from various lands working out their assignments of schoolwork. Here we witnessed New World unity in action among different national groups. Our next album picture takes us over to the North Campus by Gilead swimming pool, where we see a group of students from Chinese Hong Kong, the Kingdom of Jordan, Burma, Belgium, India, and Brazil. The brothers dressed like a sheik out of the Bible towns is from the country of Jordan. He's on the far side there, which controls part of the Bible lands where some people still dress the same as in the days of Abraham. This Arabic brother was raised in the truth and has been pioneering for 6 years, along with his wife. Look, their study period seems to be interrupted. The 3 Chinese students are being interrogated by the Jordanian student.
Hello, here come our 3 Chinese fellow sufferers.
Hi, Brother Corbusier. We are just taking a walk in the campus to have a bit of fresh air. Can we join your study group?
Oh, sure. By the way, Sister Liang, I heard that you came from Taiwan, but your brother from Hong Kong. How is it that you two came from different places?
Well, actually, we both originally came from China. If it were not for the communists, we might still be in China today.
Oh, you mean you two were refugees from China?
Yes. After World War II ended in 1945, we moved back with our parents from the wartime Chinese capital, Chongqing, to the old capital, Nanking. After all those terrible years of constant fear and sufferings during the war, you can imagine how much we long for peace and rest. But we hardly had time to settle down. Then we had to flee from the communists and took refuge in the tiny British colony, Hong Kong. We were lucky to get there before they pulled down the bamboo curtain. But I couldn't forget the thousands of fear-stricken faces of refugees I saw on the way. In Hong Kong, we heard many tragic stories and saw how thousands and thousands of people had to put up an unbelievably hard struggle just to make a living. Even though I belonged to the Baptist church then, I was so disappointed, puzzled, and disgusted that I finally quit going to church completely. I almost lost my faith in God.
Was it at this time that you came into the truth?
Yes, but my brother came into the truth first. It is rather interesting the way he got the truth. Perhaps I had better let him tell you the story.
Okay. All right. Thank you for passing the buck, Marian. Well, it was shortly after we arrived in Hong Kong in 1949 that an Australian missionary, William Carney, called on my mother in house-to-house work and placed a "Let God Be True" with her. A week later, he called back. Though my mother received him politely, she was not interested, but she thought it would be too embarrassing to ask him to stop calling. So she suggested that the missionary discuss the Bible with me instead, because, as she told him, all my family are Christians except my son, who does not believe in God at all.
Oh, were you unbeliever then?
Yes. But just to please my mother, I agreed to have a weekly discussion with the missionary. Our discussion didn't get very far for the first few weeks, but then I got sick for 2 weeks. During that time, I did some serious thinking and came to the conclusion that there must be a creator in the universe, though I was still not sure whether he was the God the Bible speaks of. So when the study was resumed, I was not as skeptical as before, but still I argued a lot when the missionary tried to show me patiently why the Bible is true. This went on for a few weeks. Then one night, just to while away time, I picked up the "Let God Be True" that my mother took. Glancing through its contents, my curiosity was aroused by the chapter, "Hell, a Place of Rest in Hope." So I began to read. I found it so different from what I used to hear in schools and so much more reasonable and convincing that I kept on reading one chapter after another. The more I read, the more I was convinced that this was the truth. I finished reading in 2 days, and after that, there was no more trouble for the missionary to study with me.
Was your mother glad that you finally became a believer?
No. As I spent more and more time in service, she became quite displeased and tried to stop me, especially when I later arranged for my sister to study with a missionary and got her into the truth too. So we had quite a bit of trouble at home.
I can imagine that. Did you have similar opposition, Brother Eng?
I had difficulties too. You see, I was born in a Buddhist family, and my father was an ardent Buddhist. At night, he would sit in his prayer room reciting the Buddhist prayers for hours. Even before I was 10, he used to teach me the basic beliefs and philosophy of Buddhism. Time and again, he emphasized to me that everything is vanity.
Were you very much influenced by such doctrine?
At that time, all things seemed to be vain to me, and my view on life was rather pessimistic, even though I was still a young child.
What did you hope to become when you grew up then?
Well, my father had 9 children, and he wanted each of them to have a different profession. However, he chose me to become a religious minister, so I had the idea of becoming a minister someday.
During the last World War, my father suddenly became a Baptist, and that brought me closer to the Christian religion. I was then about 11 years old, and I read a few chapters of the Bible every day.
Did you begin to love the Bible then?
Yes, I did. My father often encouraged me to take up religious training and chose the ministry as my career. And it was shortly after that, in 1949, the missionary that contacted Brother Lang called on me and started teaching me more about the Bible. He brought to my attention the Watchtower Bible School of Gilead. Right from that time on, I set my heart on becoming a trained Gilead missionary someday.
You sure were being led in the right track, weren't you?
Yes. With much gratefulness, I thank Jehovah God that I have learned the truth and been granted the privilege of receiving Gilead training.
What do you think of Gilead? Does it live up to your expectation?
There's nothing on earth to compare with the School of Gilead. It has made Jehovah's new world so much clearer and practical to me. Another thing that impresses me here is that the students actually kneel down by their bedside to pray before they go to bed every night. It really makes you feel humble, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, it does.
Indeed. Gilead has helped me to realize much more responsibility toward Jehovah and his other sheep, and taught me the most efficient way to carry out our preaching commission. It has not only lived up to, but actually exceeded my expectation.
How about you, Marion?
Oh, I can truly say my 5.5 months in Gilead have been the happiest day in my life. The 12 courses taught there, especially the Kingdom Prophecies course, have greatly strengthened my faith. It is simply marvelous to see so many Bible prophecies have been accurately fulfilled in every minute detail. This has considerably increased my appreciation of both God's Word and His organization.
That goes for me too. I think it's amazing the way the 12 courses dovetail together to form a united whole, like a string of gems, reflecting the beauty and harmony of God's Word so completely. They have really equipped us for the work ahead in our assignment.
Yes, I heartily agree with you.
Looking back at all the blessings we have enjoyed since we came into the truth, and especially during these past half and half months, I can really say our fleeing to Hong Kong as refugees in 1949 was actually a blessing in disguise.
Well, time is marching on. We had better get back to our study of the Bible themes course. Let us study together then.
Sure.
In our next living portrait, it appears that D-Day has come to Gilead. That means Departure Day has arrived. The students are waiting for the 3 special buses that are scheduled to take them to New York and to be discharged at the Brooklyn Bethel home. My, what a mixed group is standing around, having a lot to say, too. In this group, we find students from Australia, Japan, Nigeria, China, Argentina, and Puerto Rico. The nature lover from Japan seems to be having much to say. Let us tune in on this video picture.
While we're waiting for those buses taking us to New York for the assembly, what do you say we talk about those grand foreign assignments Brother Noor gave us 2 weeks ago? You know, we've been assigned to Asia too, Sister Siki, but not to Japan, to India. That's a land of many strange religions, Hindu, Muslim, and maybe some Buddhists too. Say, you were a Buddhist, weren't you?
Yes, of course, Fumiko. In Japan, there are lots of Buddhists.
Yes, Sister Dara. I was born a Buddhist, and there are a lot in Japan.
Well then, Fumiko, tell us, how did you get the truth?
When I was a little girl, we had a shrine in our home. Inside was a statue of fat old Buddha. And it was my job to offer food to Buddha every morning before breakfast. You see, we had to offer him food before we could eat. I did it to please my parents, but I never really thought it did much good. Buddhism was a negative way of life, which never appealed to me. After World War II, it became fashionable for all the young people to go to church. So I went to church. I didn't learn much, except a totally new idea that God was a creator. I even went so far as to get baptized in the church, but I still wasn't satisfied. There were so many questions still unanswered. For example, I remember asking the minister why we had calamities, sickness, and sorrows. Do you know what he told me? He said, it was like music.
Music? Just what did he mean by music?
You needed happiness and sadness for contrast.
Oh, what an idea.
Then I went to a college where I specialized in English literature. They used the Bible, but everything was taught from a higher critic's viewpoint. That almost ruined my faith in the Bible. I felt like a hypocrite, and I was sorry I ever got baptized. But I could not deny the existence of a creator when I saw the beauty of nature.
Well then, Fumiko, how did Jehovah's Witnesses contact you?
I was home from college on summer vacation. I had a lot of time to think. And the more I thought, the more I was confused. And it got to be painful to think. So I prayed hard that if there was a creator who could hear my prayer to let me know the truth, and I would follow, even if it was a difficult way. One day, I noticed a lot of foreigners around the neighborhood. I wanted to talk to them to learn more English, but I didn't have enough nerve to stop and talk to them. A few days later, my English teacher asked me to attend an English Bible study in his home. It was those foreigners who were having the study at his house.
They were Watchtower missionaries, I guess, were they?
Yes. Since I asked many questions, one missionary, Sonny Durham from England, suggested a private study with me. I didn't think I'd learn much, as I'd met missionary people from the churches before. They were rather emotional and simple, and didn't appeal to me at all. But I thought this would be a good chance to learn British English, not American English. She surprised me though, because everything I asked her, she answered from the Bible, and very reasonably as well. She didn't teach me just mechanically, but as Paul said, she put her heart and soul into helping me. So here I am.
Well, we're very glad that you're here too, Fumiko.
We're glad you're here, Fumiko.
But you've been asking me all the questions, Jenny. What it is like witnessing in Australia?
Well, Australia, it's very much like America to witness in. There are many big cities, and houses are close enough for convenient witnessing. But there are isolated places too. One brother told me of driving for a whole day, and he never left one man's property.
How would you like to witness in territory of that sort?
That might be good, if I could see some of those kangaroos.
Well, Fumiko, you would see plenty of them. Sometimes they are a nuisance to drivers in that part of the country. You know, one time a brother was driving his new little European-type car one way, while a big kangaroo happened to be hopping the other way. Unfortunately for the brother, the kangaroo jumped on the car and he smashed it so badly the brother had to sell it.
Did you witness in places like that?
No, most of our witnessing was been in the city. I was raised in the city and brought up in the truth. And of course those early years of training certainly were a great aid to me. And then we began to pioneer in 1954. And certainly our appreciation has grown greatly since then. I believe we've learned to rely on Jehovah more and more, and he's really blessed us in our work.
Lynn, do you remember the time when we couldn't get any part-time work and we were wondering what was going to happen next? And then remember, you went and applied for the job of herding pigs at the stock market and the man wouldn't even take you on?
Yes, I felt even worse than the prodigal son because there weren't even any carob pods about. But then, after that, the next day came a real opportunity to work at my own trade. And we were better off than ever before since we began pioneering. Jehovah certainly has provided richly.
But I think that our real blessings came in quick succession after that. First of all, we had an invitation to special pioneer work, and then we had circuit work, and then Gilead. So here we are too, Fulmiko, and it's something that we'll never forget.
There are a lot of things about Gilead I'll never forget. The natural beauty of the gardens inspire me to want to give out in praise the knowledge I learned.
Lots of brothers enjoyed the facilities too, like the swimming pool, for instance.
Remember? One brother was swimming so vigorously that he lost his false teeth. It took us a long time to get used to his new face.
You know, I think we'll all be very sorry to leave. More than ever now, I can appreciate the operation of Jehovah's wonderful organization. Gilead has taught me that, and seeing the unity of one big family in the New World Society, it's a proof that this is Jehovah's organization. Now we're anxious to get to our assignment, and perhaps we can help others to see it through our eyes and appreciate the New World Society as much as we do.